All right, so we are here in front of many of our grains. As I mentioned, we use tons of grains here at Koval, things that typically have never been used for whiskey production. So you'll see some rye behind me. We also have many bags of certified organic oats, spelt, millet, and wheat as well. We also have some malted barley around. The malted barley is part of our 4-grain 47th Ward whiskey, which is actually our only mixed mash bill whiskey aside from our very, very new bourbon. So when Robert and Sonnet started this distillery, they actually had no intentions of making bourbon, which is kind of America's most prized spirit and definitely the most popular type of whiskey. They didn't want to use corn. Everybody uses corn was kind of their thought process in deciding to use all these alternative grains, if you will. So instead of going with corn, which on its own is relatively harsh and almost needs the love of that heavily charred barrel to kind of mellow out the harshness of it over time, which ends up yielding that somewhat sweet kind of candied whiskey that we always think about when we think of bourbon. So they went kind of the totally opposite route. They started making rye whiskey, which has really boomed into another kind of vitalization of an American spirit. So they wanted to go a different route with all the grains in addition to the rye. They decided to go with oats, which is also very prevalent in America, but nobody just ever bothered to use for whiskey for whatever reason. And then spelt and millet are probably the more unusual ones. They're both, millet is naturally gluten-free actually, and spelt is super nominal, and sometimes people do say that it is gluten-free. Millet kind of looks like couscous and is most commonly found in kind of along the western coast of Africa. It's eaten as a staple grain. And spelt is an ancient grain. It's considered to be the first cultivated in kind of the Egyptian panhandle, kind of northeastern coast of Egypt and kind of into the southwestern coast of Europe there, that people were eating spelt thousands and thousands of years ago. So we eventually got wheat from spelt. So Robert and Sonnet kind of wanted to hone in on these old grains that have long been forgotten and never incorporated into spirit making. And they also wanted people to really be able to taste what these grains are like in a spirit completely on their own. So that's the big reason for our single grain whiskeys. You won't find anything but oats in the oat whiskey, nothing but rye in the rye whiskey, nothing but millet in the millet whiskey, etc. So the whiskeys are all very true to flavor. They're all organic grains as well. We get them milled at a place in Kansas called the Heartland Mill. So they decided to go organic really as a sense of purity. It's hard to say whether or not the organic grains play into the final flavor of the product, but for Robert and Sonnet and for any distillery or brewery that chooses to use organic grains, it's really about kind of supporting the ecosystem and supporting the whole sustainable movement, and ensuring that the grains we're using are coming from a good place, and that the end product, that spirit, you can sip it knowing that it's as organic and pure as it can be.